The day you finally tell your family, "I'm done," is almost never the day you stopped loving them. It's the day you realize that loving them is costing you your soul. For the rarest personality type, the deeply introspective, intuitive one Jung described as oriented toward the inner world, family isn't just family. It's a psychic battlefield. On the outside, everyone might see a loyal son, daughter, or sibling. On the inside, it feels like you've been cast as the strange one in a movie you never auditioned for. Reading from a script that was written long before you were born. You know the script I'm talking about. The one where you're the responsible one, the healer, the quiet lightning rod for everybody's unprocessed pain, or the one who sees the secrets no one else will name. As a child, you probably thought that being so aware was a gift. You could sense when someone was about to explode, when the mood shifted, when something wasn't right. You didn't have words like trauma, projection, or narcissism. You just knew that if you adapted hard enough, if you were kind enough, spiritual enough, successful enough, they might finally love you in the way your nervous system has been waiting for since you were tiny. And this is where the guilt begins. Because on paper, maybe your family isn't that bad. There might be no headline-level abuse, no moment where everything clearly crossed a line. What you live in instead is a drip feed of subtle invalidation. Eye rolls when you talk about your feelings. Jokes when you set a boundary. Silence when you tell the truth. And then when you finally start choosing yourself, suddenly you're selfish, cold, ungrateful, or possessed by new ideas. So why does cutting off family feel like the final exam for this rare personality? From a Jungian lens, the psyche is trying to individuate, to become who you truly are, not who the tribe needs you to be. Individuation is not gentle. It asks you to betray the image that keeps the family system stable. The black sheep is rarely the sick one. They're usually the one who refuses to keep carrying everybody else's unconscious shadow. Family systems theory says every family organizes around stability, even if that stability is unhealthy. When one member becomes more conscious, reading, healing, going to therapy, meditating, waking up spiritually, the system experiences that growth as a threat. Your insight disrupts the pattern. Your boundaries expose the imbalance. Your refusal to keep playing the old role reveals just how much the family relied on your self-abandonment. And so, the punishment begins. It might look like emotional exile, being left out of plans, ignored in group chats, talked about but not talked with. It might look like spiritual gaslighting. You're supposed to forgive. You're attracting this. Family is sacred. You just need to let go of your ego. It might look like financial control, guilt trips, subtle digs, or outright character assassination. The rare, highly conscious personality absorbs this like it's all proof that they're the problem, because for years you've been trained to see yourself through your family's projections. Jung called these unconscious patterns complexes, living entities inside the psyche powered by emotion and story. The family complex can be so strong that you mistake its voice for your soul's voice. So when you finally consider walking away, that complex screams inside your head. If you leave, you're a bad person. If you were really spiritual, you'd stay and love harder. If you were healed, this wouldn't bother you. Have you heard some version of that inside yourself? If you feel safe sharing, drop a word or phrase in the comments that your family uses to pull you back in. Sometimes just seeing it written down is enough to realize, oh, that was never mine. Here's the painful paradox. The more conscious you become, the more your love shifts from loyalty to truth. And the more your love shifts to truth, the less you can tolerate staying where truth is forbidden. This is why walking away from family can feel less like a choice and more like a soul duty. At a certain point, your psyche understands something your ego doesn't want to admit. If I stay in this role, I will slowly disappear. If I break the script, some people may never forgive me, but at least I'll still exist. We're not going to rush into clean answers here, but we're going to explore why the rarest personality feels such crushing guilt for choosing freedom over family, and how that guilt is actually a sign of your conscience, not your selfishness. Guilt is the chain that keeps the rarest personality tied to the family gate long after the lock has rusted away. You know that feeling. Your body already knows you can't keep living like this. Your mind has made the list of harms, patterns, and red flags. But the second you actually take distance, There's this tidal wave inside. I'm a terrible person. I'm abandoning them. I'm going to regret this forever. From a psychological point of view, that guilt is not proof that you're wrong. It's proof that you were trained to see loyalty as love. Early on, your nervous system learned a core rule. I survive by staying connected to my caregivers no matter what the cost. Attachment theory calls this the survival bond. As a sensitive, introspective type, you didn't just attach to people. You attached to their pain, their moods, and their expectations. You became an emotional translator, constantly reading energy, predicting reactions, smoothing the edges. So when you grow up and start choosing freedom, your whole inner system sounds the alarm. To the old wiring, freedom looks like danger. Autonomy looks like betrayal. Saying no feels the same as saying I don't love you, even if that's the exact opposite of what's happening. Jung spoke about how the parental image gets lodged in the psyche as an imago, a kind of inner figure that continues to judge, reward, and punish us long after we've physically left home. The guilt you feel when you set a boundary isn't just yours. It's that internalized family voice saying, "How dare you change the rules?" It's the echo of every sigh, every guilt trip, every after everything we've done for you. And then there's the spiritual layer. Many highly conscious people feel like they were born into their family with a mission to heal the lineage, to end cycles, to bring awareness where there has been denial for generations. Maybe you've had that sense too, like you were the one who sees. That belief can be beautiful until it turns into a prison. Because if you secretly believe it's my soul's job to fix this family, walking away can feel like failing your purpose. The guilt becomes existential. Did I just abandon my soul contract? So, here's a reframe that tends to land deep. Sometimes the contract is not to fix them. Sometimes the contract is to refuse to repeat them. Family systems theory talks about roles. The hero, the scapegoat, the caretaker, the lost child. The rare, introspective, spiritually oriented person usually gets a blended role. Part hero, part therapist, part scapegoat. You are praised when your gifts serve the system and punished when your truth exposes it. So when you say, "I need distance," the system doesn't just lose a member. It loses its favorite regulator. The one who absorbs tension. The one who explains everyone else. Of course, there's backlash. Of course, there's punishment, silent treatment, gossip, minimizing your story, and rewriting history. And the wild part is, the sharper the punishment, the more it reveals about how much labor you were secretly doing all along. On the inside, that punishment lands as guilt. If they are this hurt, maybe I went too far. Maybe I'm being extreme. But look closely. Is it your conscience speaking or your conditioning? A healthy conscience says, "I don't want to be cruel. I care about people." Conditioning says, "My value comes from sacrifice. If I'm not suffering for them, I'm bad." Can you feel the difference between those two inside yourself? Many people at higher levels of consciousness confuse their conditioning with compassion. You might tolerate emotional harm and call it forgiveness. You might stay in contact and call it being spiritual. You might let your boundaries be trampled and tell yourself you're practicing unconditional love. But love without truth isn't compassion. It's self-erasure. If you feel safe sharing, what story does your guilt tell you when you try to choose yourself? Is it you're selfish? You're ungrateful? Something else? Your answer might help someone else recognize the same pattern in their own life. Now, let's get into the most confronting piece. Why betraying the family script is sometimes the only way this kind of personality survives. Why walking away can become a soul duty, not an ego trip, and how to live with your choice without turning your heart to stone. Think about what a family script actually is. It's not just a set of rules like we visit on holidays or we don't talk about money. It's a deep inherited psychic program. Who gets to be loved? Who carries the shame? Who is allowed to change? Who must stay small so others can feel big? It's carried in stories, jokes, silences. Who gets defended? Who gets blamed? You're born into that script like an actor joining a play already in progress. The rare, highly introspective personality tends to be the one who sees the script. You're the one asking, Why do we always protect this person no matter what they do? Or, why does nobody admit how hurtful that was? That seeing is the beginning of individuation. In Jungian terms, yourself, the deeper organizing center of your psyche, starts pulling you away from the mask, the persona you wear in the family. At first, it's subtle. A discomfort in conversations, a resistance to lying, a desire to tell the truth, even if your voice shakes. But the more you grow, the more unbearable that inner split becomes. On one side, the child who learned I am safe when I keep everyone comfortable. On the other side, the emerging adult who knows my soul is suffocating in this role. Betraying the family script usually means siding with that emerging adult, and that feels treacherous because the child in you still thinks loyalty equals survival. Here's the paradox. Staying loyal to the family script is treated as love, but it's actually loyalty to the unconscious. Breaking the script looks like betrayal, but it's loyalty to life. From a psychological view, you are transferring allegiance from the family ego to your own psyche. From a spiritual view, you're moving from worshipping the bloodline to honoring the deeper intelligence that placed you in that bloodline in the first place. Sometimes that deeper intelligence keeps whispering the same thing. You're done trying to earn love where the price is your self-respect. When you ignore that whisper, symptoms appear. Anxiety, depression, spiritual burnout, somatic pain, or mystery exhaustion. The body carries the conflict between your soul and the script. In that sense, cutting contact or taking major distance isn't a random act. It's the last line of defense of a psyche that has tried everything else. This is why walking away can be a soul duty. Not because you're superior or more evolved, but because your system has reached a threshold where staying would mean betraying your own consciousness. On a transgenerational level, you might be the first one to say, the violence stops here. The silence ends here. The self-abandonment is over. That is spiritual work, even if nobody hangs a medal on your wall for it. Of course, then comes the hardest part. How do you live with that choice without hardening? How do you create distance without turning your heart to stone? First, by separating contact from love. Staying in contact is not the same thing as loving someone. Distance is not the same thing as hate. You can hold both truths. I care about these people, and I cannot stay in the environment they create. This is mature, differentiated love. The kind that recognizes where your responsibility ends and theirs begins. Second, by letting grief in. When you betray the family script, you're not just losing people. You're losing a fantasy. The dream that one day they would see you, apologize, repair everything, become the parents or siblings you needed. That dream is powerful. Letting it die hurts. But grief is a sign that your heart is open, not frozen. People who genuinely don't care don't grieve. Can you feel that in your own story? Under the anger and the numbness, is there a pool of grief for what never was and likely never will be? Third, you stay soft by refusing to turn them into monsters and yourself into a saint. Depth psychology reminds us that all of us carry shadow. That includes you, and that includes them. You can acknowledge real harm while also recognizing they are products of their own scripts, their own wounds, their own unconsciousness. That doesn't excuse anything. It just keeps your heart from getting stuck in pure bitterness. And finally, you live with your choice by choosing where your loyalty goes now. To your healing, to friendships that feel like mutual resonance, not duty. To a future family, biological or chosen, where your sensitivity is honored instead of mocked. To practices that reconnect you with something larger than your personal story. Meditation, prayer, therapy, creativity, bodywork, nature, whatever helps you remember. I belong to life, not just to one family system. Before we close, I want to ask you something gently. If the younger you could see the courage it took to question your family story, would they be proud of who you're becoming right now? If this video felt like someone finally put words to what you've been carrying, you're not alone here anymore. This channel is for the deep feelers, the cycle breakers, the ones who love fiercely and choose themselves. If you'd like to keep walking this path with me, hit subscribe to Fractal Wisdom. And always remember, you are not too sensitive. You are exquisitely aware. And that awareness is sacred.